guys, welcome to another episode. Today's episode I decided to kind of follow up on my Famicom video and show a little bit of my Famicom collection as well as my Super Famicom collection. Now I do not own a Super Famicom system. I just use the Game Genie actually to play the Super Famicom games themselves. I know you can break the tabs off the machine, but I prefer not to do any kind of weird things cosmetically to the machine or functionality wise. So alas, I don't have a Super Famicom because every time I see them, even at conventions, they're always going for like a ridiculous amount of money, and I figure there's no point, especially when I can play these easily on my Super Nintendo. So maybe one day, but not right now. So I'm going to go through my Famicom games first here, and please note that if the title just has Japanese on it, there's a good chance that I may not know it offhand, and there's a good chance that I may pronounce it and completely butcher the game. So please just deal with it. So let's start off with a couple games here, and this is a really good one by our folks at Square. That is Final Fantasy III. It's important to note that Final Fantasy III in America, when it originally came out, was actually Final Fantasy VI. We did not get the actual 2-3 for the NES, so kind of interesting there. Dragon Quest IV. We are currently in our 9th segment of the actual game series. I believe that just came out in America. My buddy Randy and his son are really enjoying it. So still kind of follows the same artwork if you can get a clear picture of that. But I've honestly only really played the first one, which over here, before its name changed, it was Dragon Warrior. And we had Dragon Warrior 1 through 4, but the games were so expensive and hard to find that I was only able to really play the first one. I remember with the first Dragon Warrior, actually, we didn't do it because my mom didn't want us to, but my sister and me really wanted to get Nintendo Power and subscribe to it because they were giving a free guide away with it, and they were actually giving away the game too, so that was pretty interesting. Next up, we have a baseball game here from Jelco. And I want to say that this is actually Bases Loaded. I think this is the first Bases Loaded, which was a decent baseball game. Still more of an RBI baseball player myself. This one is Biosenshi Dan. Biosenshi Dan is almost like a Zelda 2 clone, except you're running around an alien world, going through different times, and talking to aliens. And from what I remember, you're trying to restore Earth, I think, from these evil aliens that have invaded. And I actually saw this game on Luke Morse's channel, and was really interested in getting it. And even though I have a translated ROM that I play on my NES flash cart, I wanted to have an actual copy of the game. Mega Man 4. I have my Mega Man collection split up for the actual Nintendo Famicom eras. I got 1 through 3, I believe, on Nintendo, and then 4 through 6 on the Famicom, so I kind of got it split up there. Just love the color of these cartridges. They're like candy. But Mega Man 4, good game. Mega Man 5, my second favorite next to 2. Awesome artwork. Here's a game that we got in North America by the name of Metal Storm. I believe the name is the same. Yes, it is. But what's interesting about the Japanese version of this is I want to say, and I can't remember exactly, but I want to say that this version is either easier or harder, and it has something to do with the stage that had tons of spikes with it. I can't remember if this one was harder or if it was American version was the harder one. But this actually had like an intro sequence with characters and stuff like that, and that was completely removed in the American version of it, which is too bad. Great game too, really fun game with gravity. Mega Man 6, which admittedly I have not played through and beat, only played the first couple of boss levels of it, and one I will get to eventually, but gotta love that yellow cartridge. This was a game that was featured on Retronauts not too long ago. This is the Goonies 2. Very good game. One of my favorites, interesting exploration-wise. Pac-Land, which is a decent side-scrolling Pac-Man game, and the Nintendo staple, which is Golf. What else we got here? This is actually Macross, or as it was known over here, Robotech, or merged into two things, Robotech. Here in America, the Robotech anime was actually a combination of two different shows. And thinking back about that show and watching it, I don't know how they spliced together footage from two different shows and made it work. I think they barely made it work well, but anyways, that is it's a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up featuring the Macross characters in Robotech. I want to say that this one is Yoshi's Cookie. It is a puzzle game where you're stacking Mario enemies. This is Ys, Book 1. I don't know if Book 2 was ever released for the Famicom system, but I thought this was interesting to have just because I'm a big fan of the Ys games, at least 3, and I wanted to pick it up even though I have it for the TURBOGRAFX-CD. This one caught my eye really quick, being a big anime fan, and that is Akira. Unfortunately, I cannot play this thing because it is extremely, extremely Japanese text-oriented, and it's basically almost like a playable graphic novel of the movie, but it seemed fun. I don't think there's ever been a translation of it. And next up is Sky Destroyer from Taito. I don't remember if I ever popped this in or not, but I want to say it's a top-down shooter, but that may be incorrect. It may be almost like a third-person shooter. Except we got Dragon Quest II, which is the first Dragon Quest game to actually have a party system in it. You can have up to 3 characters. This is the original Goonies game. This was never released in America, so I have Goonies 1 and Goonies 2. Gotta love the movie cover artwork it's got there. This is, okay, remember when I was telling you about names I was going to butcher, and this is sad because the name probably isn't even that hard. But this is it's an anime soccer series or football series, and it's Captain Tatsubua or something like that. I can't remember how to pronounce it correctly, but it is a soccer game, I think, or soccer simulator. I don't think I've ever plugged it in, to be honest with you. Boxing game here. I'm pretty sure in America this was known as Ring King, which is, to me, it was a lot of fun. Not like Punch-Out, it was more of a isometric view, if I remember. Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. And if you notice, the cartridge in this almost seems a little bigger. It may not be, but maybe just a different design. But this actually had an additional sound chip in it that made the tune sound different, and there's some graphical differences in this version of Castlevania 3 compared to the NES one. A lot of the stuff brought over to America, like the cross, was censored, and this game contained everything. The music sounds a little bit different. A lot of people prefer the Famicom version of it to the NES version, but I actually like the Nintendo version. I think it's just what I grew up with, but great music nonetheless. This is Lunar Ball, which is a pull game. I don't think I've ever popped this one in. I think this was included in my little collection. And we're going to take a really quick break here, see how much time we got left, and we'll get into my... actually, we've got 3 more Famicom games, so let me do that really quick. 2 Power Joy cartridges, actually. These are from the Power Joy consoles, bootleg consoles that I've reviewed, and they actually work fine on the Famicom. And lastly is Frontline, and that's like a top-down, almost commando-ish shooter, just not as graphically special, if you will. So, for real this time, we're going to take a quick break, and I'll be back, depending on how much time we have, with some of my Famicom Disk System games, so we'll be right back. Okay, so after looking here, I think we're going to end up doing the Super Famicom stuff in a separate video, and I'll upload that very shortly after I've uploaded the Famicom stuff. This will give me a couple minutes to talk a little bit more about Famicom stuff before I get into the Super Famicom stuff. But let's take a look at my Famicom Disk System games. I got a couple decent games in my Famicom Disk System collection, and we'll start with the one I showed during my demo video on the Famicom, and that is Castlevania 2, The Accursed Seal, or Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, as it was known here in America. A couple of decent sound channel changes and everything, and the fact that you can just save your progress rather than using the annoying password system was kind of handy. But not a major difference over it. Next one is the original Super Mario Brothers. Great game. I mean, this is a classic. How can you not go wrong with the original Super Mario Brothers? if I recall, this one is actually Kid Icarus, and I got this, most of these I got off the same guy from eBay. He would sell these for incredibly cheap, and this one here I do not think is actually Kid Icarus. I think it was some other game loaded onto it. I can't remember exactly what, but I was kind of disappointed because I really wanted a copy of that game. I got it on Wii Virtual Console though. God, can't even say that. Section Z. This is a Capcom shooter here, and this is another one. This was actually the first game I got with my Famicom disk system. It came with it, and it was not Section Z, unfortunately. It was Zaxxon by Atari, I think. No, Zaxxon, I believe, was actually Sega. So, another one that wasn't the right game. The original Legend of Zelda for the Famicom disk system. Love that artwork. Such a great game. Dr. Chaos. Now, a lot of people hate Dr. Chaos. I actually love it because to me it was one of the very first creepy games that I ever played on the system. It was creepy to me anyways. You basically play this guy who is investigating this mansion where his brother does experiments, and all these monsters have taken over the house. And the beginning sequence had this kind of just creepy music to it, and showed this guy running around the mansion just stabbing things through the window. And the lights would flicker and weird things would happen. And it was just kind of creepy. That game creeped me out, and so did Shadowrun. Shadowgate. Shadowgate freaked me out. This one is known here in America as Super Mario Bros. 2, but this is actually Doki Doki Panic with the actual Doki Doki characters in it. And when this was brought over to America, it was basically cut and pasted with Mario characters in order to sell it as Super Mario Bros. 2, interestingly enough. The very first Castlevania, Vampire Killer. It was known as Vampire Killer on the MSX actually. But the very first Castlevania, love that artwork, great game. And finally the real Super Mario Bros. 2, which I haven't played in years. The last time I played it was on the Lost Levels, and it was hard as hell if I remember correctly. But that's just a look at my Famicom and Famicom disk system games. Are there more games that I'm looking for? Yeah, though I'm not actively pursuing them. I'd like to get Metroid for the Famicom disk system, and finish the Final Fantasy games on the cartridge side. And, you know, if anything else popped up, I definitely want to grab it. And occasionally when I go to the gaming conventions around here, they have a decent amount of Famicom games. Sometimes they got like the 50-in-1s that you can pick up for cheap. But I'm not actively pursuing Famicom games, but I pick them up as I see them, which is very, very rare. Mostly because, you know, the Japanese prices for getting these games over here are still kind of high, especially with shipping. So, for you people that have Famicom, what is your favorite Famicom games? What are your favorite Famicom disk system games? I'm curious to know, and get curious if you have questions about if there's any differences between these and their American counterparts. But I am going to go ahead and shoot the Super Famicom games collection next, and I will upload that as well in a separate video. That's all for now, folks. I'm Mike Murtis. Thanks for watching another episode of Gamer Logic. Peace.